Wow, there's so much in that video in terms of projection and understanding what projection is. Um, to someone that doesn't know that, that the world is an outpicturing of our thoughts and beliefs, it would be crazy. Like uh, to say thank you, thank you for pissing me off is basically what that video is saying. Thank you for just pressing my buttons, making me angry, frustrated. The things you do and say make me feel this way. And and then this song is saying thank you for your generous triggers. Why is it saying that? Because without our brothers reflecting back to us that that there are thoughts and beliefs in our mind that we notice we have a contraction about, that we feel angry, we feel sad, we feel frustrated. Our brother's actions are actually a gift showing us that I must be believing something that isn't true about myself, about you, about God, about the world. And if we were just sitting in a cave meditating all the time and we didn't have any triggers, nothing was, not even a fly, no triggers, we wouldn't know that. We wouldn't be able to wake up from this dream. So, it is when you have tools to be able to question your thoughts and beliefs, when you have a tool like Beebot, then it becomes a thank you for the trigger now is telling me that I need to question my mind. And it's a practice. I would have to say, for me and for most people who start on this journey, it's like the mind has to do a total 180 turn from what it has thought and believed its whole life about how the world works, about it's, they're the problem, I'm not the problem. And then along comes Jesus in A Course in Miracles saying, okay, guys, it's your mind, and that once you know that and you understand how forgiveness works, then it will become a gift. It will become a gift. But at first, it's a little rocky. We can get, in fact, it would seem that we're the guilty party. Like as long as we're projecting on somebody else, they're guilty. Then we start bringing it back to our mind, and then the temptation can be, oh my God, I've been blaming them the whole time and it's been me. I'm the problem. And what the Course in Miracles is telling us is that point of bringing it back to our mind is the opportunity to then turn it over. Like, I'm going to hand this over to you, God, and you take care of it. Or whatever symbol that is, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, God, the Creator. Handing it over quickly is the way forgiveness works. And so why haven't we pulled back our projections before? Because we are afraid we're going to be the ones found guilty. And what we're being told is, no, pull back the projection, take responsibility for our thoughts and beliefs, and then hand it over quickly to me and I'll take care of it. And I can just tell you from my own experience about that. In the Bible, it says forgive 7 times 70. That's whatever, 490 times. Sometimes you have to forgive 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Sometimes there are people in our lives, maybe from when we were growing up, maybe someone we're with now, or that's left us, that we feel betrayed by. Maybe they've done something that we feel has done us wrong, and we have a lot of forgiveness around that person. And this process of forgiveness, as it's provided through Beebot, we may do a session on that that person. I can give you an example. I have a friend. We were friends for a long time, for years and years. And then one day it was like, I felt guided to send her an email and say, I don't, that this relationship's not working for me anymore. And, I basically just said that I didn't feel like I wanted to continue in the relationship. And then, I just got this huge backlash about that from her. And she, I perceived, was telling all of our friends, don't talk to Laverne anymore, she's a bitch. And so I did a Beebot session on that, and it really came down to this belief that I shouldn't have said those things to her. I shouldn't have sent the email to her. I was wrong. And really then feeling a guilt about that. And, and then hearing in my mind, like, no, you actually, that was guidance to send her that email. And I need to forgive myself for saying what I needed to say in the email. That's been several months ago, but never a day goes by that I actually, that thought of wrongness has come into my mind about sending the email, feeling this sort of backlash towards me, and then, having to hand it over. But, and maybe a bit of frustration of saying, this process isn't working, like, okay, I've handed it over. And, and then being reminded, certain ones, you'll have to forgive many times, but one day it will go. So there has to be like this, a vigilance and not a conclusion made that, if we take this through a process and we honestly are giving it our effort, like we're really, I don't like how I feel. I want to see this differently. I'm using this process in the Beebot to help me to see it differently. That every single time we do that, we're actually forgiving more. Like we're actually doing the work. Sometimes we don't feel it right away, or sometimes this is the other thing that happens. We might feel worse. But it's like we have to really be vigilant for ourselves as we go through this awakening journey, as we go through this healing of our mind journey, because our prayers are answered. And so really knowing, okay, there's, that a grievance is up again about my mother, okay, what is it that, I need to look at here? What other belief am I holding on to that I need to let go of? And trusting, like every single time we do that with anybody, that each time that we make an effort in that direction to forgive, that we're making like huge strides in our mind, more than we could ever even imagine. Like it's really, like mind-boggling to know how powerful that our mind is in terms of changing the universe. Like if we want to make a difference with the war in the Ukraine, if we want to make a difference with, the whales in the ocean, if we want to make a difference with, the violence we may be perceiving that we see on TV or maybe hear about in our city or whatever, like we have to take it back to our mind every time. That's really the only place where any difference, lasting difference can be made to anything. And, when I first started on my sort of spiritual journey, and I was in prayer and I heard, pack up and move to Utah. I lived in Idaho at the time. I just had a family, I had a job, I had a husband, I had a house, I had everything. And I just heard one day, pack up and move to Utah. uh, to live in this spiritual community. And I told my husband about it. He wasn't really into spirituality, but he was supportive of me. And he could not believe it. He was just totally shocked. He was like, what are you talking about? You know, what's wrong with our relationship? And like, I was like, nothing's wrong with it. You know, I'm hearing that I'm going to move to Utah, and I'm going to do that. You know, and he was devastated, and he really couldn't understand, you know, and I tried to explain to him, but it was like, unless you have a strong calling like that for God, and, you know, it's pretty hard, at least it seemed to be with him, to understand that. I can't understand why you're leaving when we have it so good. And I felt, yeah, like it does seem that way. And but when I did finally leave, I had to look at the belief that my actions were going to negatively affect my family. So I really thought that I was hurting him. I really thought that I was hurting my daughter. I really thought that I was hurting my friends, my close friends, you know, and I had to do a lot of Beebots. At the time, it was called the Instrument for Peace, but I had to do a lot of those because there were so many beliefs that I had done something wrong, and that I was going to be hurting people that I loved. And I had to be convinced that that wasn't true, because it seemed like my ex-husband was really devastated, and he was really hurting. And just in that, doing the work on my mind, you know, what I saw, it was a few months later, is a friend of his was also going through a divorce, and this friend needed a place to stay. And Scott, my husband at the time, said, well, we, you know, I have a basement in our house that's basically an apartment. Would you like to rent this apartment? And so Scott ended up having a mighty companion, a friend with him, you know, that first year that I left. I really felt like, you know, that was showing me that, you know, that there is no loss. And when you're in prayer and taking the steps that you're being asked to take to heal your mind, like, everybody gains. It doesn't feel like that sometimes, but you know, it's the truth of the matter. And my daughter, she's in her mid-30s, but when I told her I was moving to Utah, she was like, I'm not talking to you ever again. Get out of my life. I don't want to, don't bother calling me. Don't bother texting me. Don't bother. I just don't want you in my life. I hate you. And that was really, really hard for me, because I felt like, you know, yeah, I wanted to maintain a relationship with her, but she didn't want to, you know, because if I'm not going to be there and be the grandma to, you know, my grandkids, then she was like, I don't want anything to do with you. And that was a hard one for me. But what I could see, like what I could really see in that, when I left, this codependent relationship that I had with my daughter actually went away too. She was just so she was basically, you know, I was the babysitter, so she could go out whenever she wanted to, and you know, grandma's going to take care of the kids all the time. And you know, and I have to admit, I was part of the problem too, you know, that she was not having to hold down a job, or wasn't having to really be responsible. And that, you know, once that I left and was out of the picture, then she really did have to have a job, and she really did have to find babysitters, and she really had to take responsibility. So I, you know, really got to see again that, you know, because I took the step that I heard to take, you know, and I did the work in terms of questioning that belief that some other people can be hurt about the decisions I'm making. Like just in that particular situation, I was given 2 examples of that. No, that's not true. Like, everybody gains when you do your work, healing work in your mind. And then even trusting, and that is another thing with Beebot, you know, in the morning check-in, it says basically to trust, you know, to trust that if you pause and pray, that you're going to be given the guidance on what you need to do during the day. Like, just following that, you know, to the best of your ability is going to make all the difference in your life. So, you know, at first it's like little baby steps. Maybe we feel wobbly about that. Like, okay, all right, what am I to do now? What am I to do? Like, you know, because we're being asked truly, you know, to start every day without a plan. Like, to start every day just totally open, you know, to what's to happen today. Okay, you know, all right, I don't know what my day's going to look like. Maybe I have a job to go to, I know that, and maybe I need to, you know, run to the store. Okay, I have that in my mind. But basically turning the whole day over, you know, what is that going to look like? You know, what is it that I am going to be called to say? What am I going to be called to do? You know, what is it that is going to support my mind to have that day that I told Beebot I want? You know, a joyful day. I want a joyful day. I want, you know, to decide with God today. I want to meditate today. I want to, you know, I want to be still, or be present, or, you know, whatever it is that we're saying we want to do today. It's a powerful, powerful prayer that we're putting out there to the universe. And can you know, you think about it, we didn't ever really were told that, you know, growing up, like, set your day up, decide the day you want. No, if we just seem to be like just flow, you know, blowing around in the wind, you know, kind of like whatever, someone says something to me I don't like, now I'm having a rotten day. You know, something happens, you know, that I didn't anticipate, now my day is crap. You know, that kind of just being blown around in the wind is actually, you know, not our authentic state. That's not, we're not in alignment with God in that kind of a letting our state of mind and our moods just be subject to whatever the whims are of the ego, actually. So with this practice of setting up our day, you know, deciding the day, what the experiences are that we want to have, and then noticing, like, this is so important, then noticing when we aren't having that day. Like, okay, do I want to spend the rest of my day feeling like crap because I, you know, think that somebody has done me wrong or said something to me that basically ticked me off? You know, that's really the point of decision, when we notice that we don't feel 100%, like all of a sudden we're not in our joyful day, you know, and we can now decide whether or not we want to continue that trajectory, taking us outside of that day we want, or if we want to get back into alignment. And what we know, like what we're told, is that, you know, there is an attraction actually to pain. There's an attraction to guilt in the mind. You know, it's not personal, it's just in the mind. And so we have, you know, once there's an awareness of that, like, okay, you know, in the past, I would have let this get to me and bring me down for the rest of the day. But, you know, now I know that I have a choice right now. And if I can nip this in the bud sooner, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with than if I wait until the end of the day to try to forgive this. Like, you know, and just trying to find 5 minutes, you know, to just basically pause, go within your mind and question what the thoughts and beliefs are that are generating a situation where somebody seems to be saying something to me that's triggering me, and making me believe that it's them that is the cause. Does that make sense? Does that make sense at all? Like how powerful it is that we can quickly get back on track, even if we feel like we're right. Even if we feel like we're right, because this whole world is actually it's actually trying to validate what we think and believe is true. So if we have strong beliefs, even if they're not true, the world is going to try to validate those beliefs for us. So if we think there are outside villains, then we'll see Putin's and Hitler's and, you know, Donald Trump. If you know, if we think he's the guilty one, like they will show up outside of us. And, you know, and if we could see, oh, wow, I really feel triggered by Putin there, I want to take him into my mind, because it can't be, you know, that he's outside of me and that whatever he's doing is something that is apart from me. And that's a, you know, boy, when we haven't been told that growing up, and we've spent half of our lives like thinking it's the world outside of us that's the problem, you know, it's very humbling to have to admit we were wrong. We have to admit we always have to admit we're wrong. And, you know, we are, it's just, you know, and we have to be able to just learn it. You know, we have to humble ourselves, because, you know, we do want to be happy. That's the, you know, bottom line. If we want to be peaceful and we want happiness, then we have to admit that we're wrong about the world, that we were wrong, and ask for help. And that's, you know, the little willing, we're only asked for a little willingness. We're not asked like to make massive, you know, adjustments to our lives or to the people in our lives, you know, or to the world, but just whatever it is in the moment. And if we're happy, we're peaceful is probably a better way of saying it, because people can have this idea of happy, but if we feel peaceful, then that's really the greatest gift we can give ourselves, is to be peaceful. We be peaceful no matter what is going on around us. Like then we're ninjas, we're peace ninjas. We're actually, you know, in the eye of the storm, and everything may be happening around us, but we're just in this place of peace. Because why? Because we've questioned our thoughts and beliefs, and we know that if it's not of love and peace and happiness and joy, then it's not of God and it's not true. And that's why, you know, that's why Jesus could go to the cross and be crucified and not be angry with his brothers. He was not, you know, there's some movies portray that he's angry and he's suffering, but actually he had reached the state of seeing that he wasn't a body, and also seeing that the ones around him, you know, were basically basically mindless. They didn't know what they were doing. You know, they were soldiers, they were told to crucify, they were just doing that job, you know, and that's why he could say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And we are being called into that same state of mind, you know, with everybody, with our brothers, the ones we're close to, or the ones we're just meeting maybe in a store or driving, you know, on the road with, you know, we want to be able to practice forgiveness with all of them. Why? Not because it's the right thing to do and I'm holier than thou, but because we want to be peaceful. Like we want to be in that state. The only way that we can do that is to pull the projections off of our brothers. The projections being, what it is we think they're doing to us, what it is that we think they're doing wrong, what it is that we think they should be doing differently. Like, there's so many things. There's just it's like ripe with opportunities. And then the ego would say, well, yeah, that's overwhelming. Where are you going to start with that? But the thing with it is, we don't need to even look far, because whatever it is that we need to forgive is right. It's going to show up during this day that we've decided that we want to have peaceful or happy or joyful, whatever. Anything that's not that is a forgiveness opportunity. That's why even a fly would be, if we're trying to meditate and a fly comes along and then we're really annoyed, it's like, well, what did I have an expectation that there shouldn't be any flies in the house. Do I want to keep that expectation, or do I want peace? Every time, asking that every single time. We're worthy of consistent effort. We really are worthy of consistent effort in this area. Just okay, there you go. I got some sound from Nicola, but I think I got you muted. Did you have a question?
Yes, I just unmuted myself because I wanted to say that one of the things you said way back now about when you left your husband and you noticed you were believing that you could hurt people, I recognized that and you now no longer believe that, but I recognized that I actually still believe that right this minute, and I would like to hand that over together with you because it's so powerful when we do it together. Wow. I want to hand that over to Holy Spirit, please. Yes, and I want to have another way to look at this and to know myself and my brothers for who they are. Amen.
Yeah, amen. That's such a powerful prayer. And also your willingness to share that with us, is really symbolic of your desire to hand it over to the Holy Spirit here and now. So even like me sharing about my friend, like I share that with you guys because I want you to know sometimes we do have to hand something over 7 times, 70 times, sometimes we do. And I share it with you here because I do want that prayer answered. Like, wow, I still think I hurt her some way, by telling her, I don't think we should be friends anymore. And so I just keep handing it over, and then I'll trust that one day, it'll be gone. Because the feeling went from, in that situation, she's the problem. And then it went to me like, oh, you are the one that really is responsible for this. You'd still be friends now if you didn't write that email, but it would be like, and this is so important to see when it is that we're holding on to relationships because we don't want to hurt the other person's feeling. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had that where you don't say what you need to say in a relationship because you don't want to hurt their feelings or you don't want to rock the boat? Like
so I used to be very codependent in relationships. I remember the one, a romantic one too, a few boyfriends ago. It was very extreme. But since the course, I've become more aware, and I actually did go to Codependent Anonymous for a short while, where I really started to get a better idea of it, and that idea of that people pleasing, as David says, where I'm really trying to be more aware. And I'm now doing this because of the joy because I want to contribute? Or am I actually doing it because I'm afraid if I don't, I will be left, or if I don't, I won't be loved? Yeah, I've started to pay much better attention to that, and then go to Holy Spirit if it's not for the joy, you know? Yeah, so yes, I definitely have experience with that.
Yeah.
Like doing it out of fear. Yeah.
And it can be a hard habit to break, because if you think about it, the whole society and our families and people around us is, always been, be nice, don't hurt their feelings, be the nice girl, and so it's like it goes against everything that we've been told to do as women, or as a wife, as a daughter, or as even what a good friend does, and for me, like, because friendships can get toxic too. And if we ever notice, somebody's liking our posts or whatever, commenting on our posts and on Facebook, and then we notice we're liking their posts and we're commenting on their posts because they commented on our stuff, it gets into this really weird cycle like that. We get caught up in stuff like that, like, oh yeah, well, she liked my stuff, so I better like her stuff, or she's not going to like me anymore. It's like, it's so insidious. It just sneaks in everywhere. I have to, like, even with my daughter, because there's such a codependency there, from going way back. I was a single mom for many years, and she basically, it was just me and her, for a long time. And then when I got married, she was angry about that. And then when I said I was leaving, she was really angry about that. But it was like, I definitely heard the most helpful thing to do was to leave, even though I didn't have any evidence that would tell me that that was the right thing, because I was so worried that my grandkids weren't going to be provided for, that she was going to go out partying with their friends and just leave the kids with whomever. And I didn't, that was a scary thought, really, for me, that I had to trust, okay, I don't, I'm really worried about this, Spirit, you got to help me with this. I don't think she's going to take care of the kids like she should, and it's, so I really have to, you have to really trust, that it must be, when I sent the email to my friend, I don't think we should be friends anymore. That was what I heard in prayer when I asked, what should I do here? Because things aren't feeling right. And I heard, send the email, and I cannot look back. Like, I cannot, once I hear something like that feels like the Spirit telling me to do something, because Laverne wouldn't have done that. She wants the friendship. I cannot look back on that decision now, like, I heard it, I did it, and it must be for the good of everybody. Yeah. Tina, do you have any examples of what I'm sharing in your life where you've had that, a tough decision like that to make around a relationship, or even facing one now?
I can't think of anything right now, but I totally relate to what you're saying, though, to everything you're saying today. But no, I don't have any comment directly related to that specifically.
Mm-hmm. I think just this thing around, the trusting, like, we're not sure what to do in a situation. Okay, that's a good place to be, actually, when we don't know what to do. Then we really have to pray. And we might not get the answer right in the moment, but sometimes what I'll do, is I'll pray, and then I'll go to bed. And oftentimes the next morning I'll just hear it when I wake up, and then it's like, okay, just go, I know that's not Laverne, that there's a different feeling to it. It's gentle, it's quiet, but it feels really good to go in that direction. And then I go in that direction, even if I feel nervous, even if I'm, kind of like, that kind of feeling of that, I still go in that direction. And the beauty of that, learning how to trust in that way, is that the truth of the matter is, how could we know in this vast, vast universe, what is the best decision in any situation? In our relationship with our kids, or with our family, or in our workspace, how would we know what the best decision is? We really don't, because we only can see a little tiny pinhole from that angle. So, just sort of trusting with these decisions. Start with a small decision, and then work your way up. I left my family, I mentioned, and moved to Utah, but only because I heard it so clearly. It was such a voice, in my mind, that I knew it wasn't of me. And, and I had found the Course in Miracles already. So it's kind of like, okay, that must be God's voice here. I'm going to go in this direction. And knowing that ultimately going in this direction is going to lead to my ultimate happiness. Right. And even with Beebot, Beebot is, while it could seem like, oh, Laverne's doing something for other people, to help them, I'm actually doing it for myself, to help me, because I get helped by it. And so I want to share it with other people. And this whole thing about deciding your day and setting your day, that was the Spirit. The Spirit put that in, and I have to really trust that, that's for me too. And then the next week or two, should be it next week, but we'll be releasing it in Spanish. And so it's going to open it up to a whole new, group of people who only speak Spanish. But even that, and even this project, or even having these Zoom meetings, I'm doing this because, yeah, it's my, way of staying in a high state of mind. Like, to be able to connect with you two is really, it just makes me feel good. It makes me feel happy, and I'm grateful, for us to be together, just because, we have this shared purpose. When you have a shared purpose, oh, we want to be happy, we want to be peaceful, we want to heal our mind, that there's a power in that. Whenever two or more are gathered, there I am. Such a powerful prayer. Even you, Bella, putting it out there, this is what I want. I have a similar situation. I want to hand this over. Like that, the wings, you're like the eagle, the wind is coming in underneath the wings of eagle, and carrying that prayer to the Spirit, so it can be heard and answered. And even for you, Tina, you're just joining, and you're listening in, and you're feeling into what resonates with you. That's all really that's needed on this journey, is a little willingness, trying it out. And even if you haven't ever picked up A Course in Miracles, or you don't know a whole lot about Jesus and his teachings or whatever, the willingness that you have to heal and to feel better and to have peace of mind is everything. It really is. And some of us, I'm 60, I turned 62 on Sunday. I didn't find this out until I was 50 some, 10 years ago. But I feel, and I see this so much, as so many young people are just can see that the world, that just something just doesn't feel right. And then they maybe see their parents, they may be successful, have jobs, nice house, good, great things, and their parents aren't happy. And then they're there sitting, wow, why would I even go in that direction of living a life like that, to retire, and die? It's like, people are just finding out earlier that the world doesn't offer them anything that they want. But beyond this world, there is a world that you want and that will bring you happiness and will bring you peace. And there's something in, our minds that can hear that, because there's something in our minds that know that we're all connected at that level. Like we're all the Christ, and the Christ mind can hear this message because it's ready to wake up. And then we also watch the ego, because the ego doesn't like that, wants us to play small, wants us to be little, wants us to blame and to feel guilty, and to, those thoughts aren't our real thoughts. Those are ego thoughts. And the more we practice this, the more they become like voices or clouds of negativity, clouds of doubt, clouds of guilt, clouds of blame, clouds of shame. Those clouds are not us. And the more that we do this work of forgiveness, just doing the Beebot process, praying, handing things over, the more that you'll be able to just sit back and watch the clouds. And that's huge. That's a huge gift that you give yourself. It's like the best gift ever. It's the best gift you can give your loved ones too, because there's a ripple effect to that. Like as we clear our minds and we become more happy and peaceful, they will feel that. Like my daughter now, we have calls and there's a love there, and she understands now why I did what I did. It's not her path, but she's, told me, I see where you're going, Mom, and I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready. I have kids and a family and life, and she's living her life. But then at some point, many young people, just at some point, it's like, okay, I'm ready to do this. And then we get carried, to whatever it is that's going to be most helpful. A meeting with Kenneth, or you find the Beebot page, or, we connect on these Zoom calls so that we can just deepen in our connection with one another.
Laverne,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to carry on driving. I still have to go a bit further to work, so I will go on driving mode.
Okay,
But
thank
I can
you.
still hear you. But I want to say bye now, because
Okay.
when you say bye, I will not be able to say bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Bella. I'm glad you joined us and it all worked out. It feels like it just all worked out.
Yes, it was very good.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you.
it still is very good.
Yeah. I think it's just I feel like the calls are gonna evolve too. Like, I don't really know, but I want to just stay open to how each call goes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks,
Well,
dear.
I'll see you next week anyways.
All right. Okay,
Still
love
listening.
you. Okay, bye. All
Thank you.
right, bye-bye. So
I
yeah,
wanted to say that I've had so many things going through my mind while you're talking that I just don't even remember everything I wanted to say, but I know that I've had people say to me, well, let me back up a little bit. I started kind of hopped in the driver's seat. My life was chaotic, and I hopped in the driver's seat almost a year ago and decided, I know there are things I can do to make this better, to make my life better. What I didn't know at the time, but that I know now, is the majority of what I needed to deal with is up here, my thinking and my perspective. And so that's why when I had already been working on that, I've been doing some limbic system retraining. I started almost a year ago. And then when I came across the Beebot app, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I mean, this just is perfect for helping me like stay on target all day long. And there's one thing on here that I especially like, and I took a screenshot of it so I could refer back to it at the meeting here. Is when it asked me at the end of a day about gratitude. And then the next day, it will say you wanted to share gratitude with yourself this morning, and it will show me everything I wrote the day before. That is just tremendously helpful to me. It just puts me right back on track every time. And also where it asks me, you know, what advice do you want to share with yourself tomorrow morning, or however it words it. And that's great too, because I can't speak for other people, but I know sometimes my days are, there's some inconsistency in my days, and I don't always feel the same each day. And so that really helps me to stay on target with the things that I want to accomplish.
Yay. I love that, you know, because, you know, when we are in like a funky place or whatever, and most times, and for most people, that's as soon as they wake up, the ego wants to attack and bring up our doubts and our fears and whatever it is that they know, the ego knows is our Achilles heel. Okay. And what I mean by that is something it knows we feel bad about already. The ego wants to come in, you know, just like a heat-seeking missile, and basically make us feel like crap. So the fact that you're doing that with the gratitude and the lessons learned, because we will forget that when we feel really bad, that, you know, we won't remember all the miracles that happened yesterday. We won't remember all the gratitude that we had the day before. We won't remember the miracles that we experienced. And so you sending yourself the reminder the night before, it, you know, you're checking in with Beebot, and it's telling you, remember how you felt. You know, you had this gratitude yesterday about this, about that, about this, about that. And then all of a sudden, a little opening in the mind is allowing the light to come in. And then the ego's, it's game over. You know, the ego's like, oh, dang it. She remembers the gratitude from yesterday. You know, it's such a, it seems like a small thing, but you know, it is not, it's everything. That gratitude and the remembering, you know, of the many gifts that you received the day before. So thank you. I love that. I really think that that's such a great tool of Beebot.
Yeah, it really is. And it's such a nice compliment to the other things that I had already been doing. It just, I mean, I'm so glad I found it, or I should say, Kenneth directed me to it, because it's just so immensely helpful and a wonderful compliment to everything else I was already doing. And, you know, I've been working really hard on myself for a while. There's been, you know, I've had to work on forgiveness and acceptance of my situation in my life, and lots of gratitude. And, you know, it took time and work, but now these days I have people that say to me, how in the world can you be so calm when in this chaotic situation, or with the stuff that's going on in your life? How are you just so calm all the time? And I think, well, do you have all day? Because I could tell you all day how to do it.
That's
but
great.
what it really comes down to, what it all really comes down to is my thoughts and my perspective. It really is almost all about that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus says to teach is to demonstrate. So it must be people around you notice something like, oh, she's peaceful. You know, she seems pretty happy. You know, what do you got? You know, what are you doing? People want to know, like, what is it that, why are you peaceful? You know, so it is that you are basically resonating that love, you know, and people around you are seeing that your work is paying off, really paying off. And they do really want to know, like, oh, wow, she's happy. She's peaceful. You know, what are you doing? You know? So thank you. Yeah, it's making a difference. It really is. And that, you know what better, there's no greater gift that we can give other people than our happiness and our peace and our love. Like when you can see all your brothers, like no matter what their actions are, like you can see past that, because that's not who they really are. You know, they're the Christ. We want to be able to see that with every brother, no matter what their actions are. to authentically do that. And when we do the healing work in our mind, then we can see Putin as who he is. He's innocent. He's an innocent child of God, like we are. He seems to be doing bad things, but that's not who he is. He's playing out a script, the Putin script, but behind that, he's innocent. So thank you, Tina. That's so great. It's really paying off. It sounds like it's really paying off for you.
It truly is. My life is just so different now that since I did get in the driver's seat and ask for guidance, show me what to read and what to study and where to go and what to do. And what do you want me to see and learn and say? If you want me to share with others, then show me where I need to do that and when I need to do that. And so I'm just really open to, listening and accepting and following.
Yay. Yeah, that's it.
And when I get messages, I know where they're from because there's just an overwhelming feeling that comes along with those messages. So it's easy for me to determine where something's coming from and to know whether that's something I should follow or not.
Yeah, me too. It's such a gift when it's so obvious like that, isn't it? It's like, oh, okay. And there's,
and the more I surrender to that and continue to ask for guidance, the more and more and more messages and guidance I'm getting. It's just like a snowball effect. It started somewhere about a year ago and it just continues to snowball. I'm excited about, what's coming in the future and what new things coming my way. And then to be able to share it with other people too.
Yeah. And the fact that Beebot came in the middle of all that, it's because its message is now do only that. In other words, you want a peaceful day, do only that. Rather than like focusing on what went wrong or, where the error was, it's more or less just saying, just go in this direction and you'll know when it is that, you're going off, you've gotten into the weeds. Okay, you need to get back on the trail. That's all it's telling you, is just to do that. So it's like getting simpler and simpler. Like when you ride a bike, at first it's hard, but then it gets easier. Pretty soon you're just gliding down the road on the bike, not paying a dot, noticing or looking for error or looking back and saying, wow, I shouldn't have, turned that way or shouldn't have made that move or that move. There's no looking back in that way. So yes, and I'm with you on the trail too. I'm right there with you. You have mighty companions by your side, Kenneth, myself, others. We're all in this together. We're healing the mind.
Yeah, we are.
It's profound.
I'm so happy that you're doing these meetings and that I came across them and can attend. And it's you said something earlier about, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but something your mind, keeping your
mind in
I don't know. I was talking to, what was that?
Keeping your mind in a high state.
Yeah, that you said. I was just talking to a friend this morning about that, and she knows I attend a lot of Zoom meetings, and it's with people who are on the same pathway. And I said to her, I'm like, I attend all these Zoom meetings because they help me. And that's basically what you just said is what I was trying to explain to her, but I didn't quite explain it very well. But that's what I was trying to say is like attending all these Zoom meetings throughout the week, it helps keep me up there where I need to be.
Yeah, that's my whole day.
And even just the fellowship alone with people who are on the same path is just super mood elevating for me. And it's encouraging, even just the fellowship alone. let alone all the like helpful information and people's personal experiences and resources and everything that's shared. It's just so beneficial.
Yeah. Yay. Yep. Yeah. The course in miracles, Jesus talks about like the stages in the development of trust. Like it isn't that we just one day, all of a sudden we're just trusting. We're just totally trusting. It's more baby steps. But there comes a point on the journey where Jesus says that from this point on, we do not go on alone. Mighty companions are by our side. In other words, we're together in this truly, and we have a lot of help and support, by those of us that are also on the journey with you. Like we're all, if you could just imagine, we're all holding hands, we're doing this to get together. And when one stumbles, we're there to help them up. And when I stumble, some, mighty companions are there to lift me up. Like that's our journey now. That's our journey home. And no one gets left behind. That belief that I had, my husband getting left behind or my daughter, I really learned in an experiential way that that's not true. They come with us too. Our loved ones come with us.